Hello and welcome to a new ship tour, and today we're going to take a look at the AIDAdiva. The ship has been heavily modernized recently as part of the AIDA Evolution Fleet Modernization program, and we're going to take a look at all those new things on board during our full ship tour. AIDAdiva is 252 meters long, 37.6 meters wide, and can take up to 2,064 passengers. AIDAdiva was the first ship of the Sphinx class, followed by her sisters Bella and Luna, and then later on 4 more slightly bigger sisters. She has a gross tonnage of 69,203 and she has 634 crew members. She was built in 2007 at the Werft in Germany and has been rebuilt just a few weeks ago, beginning of 2025 in Marseille. This video is a very new video. I've just returned from this cruise. Usually my videos are in a chronological order, but as this modernization has been highly anticipated, I'm taking this video forward and uploading it as soon as possible. Also the vlogs from onboard will follow immediately. And after that we will continue with the videos in the chronological order. The modernization of the ship does not only include the public areas, it also includes the cabin, which I will show you in the next video, and also some technical aspects and also the crew areas. As always, we are starting our ship tour on the lowest deck, and that is deck number 4. My other ship tours of the sister ships started at deck 3 because there was the Pier 3 bar, but this bar is not there anymore. It has been replaced by additional crew cabins because there are now more restaurants and therefore more crew is needed, and that's why the Pier 3 bar has been replaced with crew cabins. Otherwise there are only cabins on deck 4, inside and outside cabins, so we can skip that deck and continue on deck number 5. Here we can see the staircase. That hasn't changed that much, just the old school deck plan has been replaced by modern screens, which will give you some more information. At the aft of the ship we have the Kids Club, which has been also modernized, looking very nice in a maritime design. Of course I cannot go inside, but it is a very beautiful area that also comes with an outdoor area. Here on deck 5 at the rear part we have balcony cabins and inside cabins, and we also have the promenade here on deck 5. It is a traditional promenade, not like on the newer ships like the Nova, where it is also a public area with bars and restaurants. Here it is only a promenade, so in case of emergency it's the area where you can board the lifeboats, but it is also a calm area where you can play shuffleboard or you can just enjoy watching the sea in a deck chair. Of course there are also cabins next to the promenade. Just be aware that between your cabin window and the sea there is the promenade, and people tend to look into your cabin. The windows are mirrored, but if you look closely you can still watch inside, so those cabins have a bit less privacy, just for you to know. Those are the outside cabins on deck 5. You can walk all the way around the promenade, but only in the front part. You cannot walk all the way around the whole ship. We are now back inside on deck 5, and here we also have the reception and an excursion counter. Also there are some vending machines where you can get drinks 24/7, and of course the reception with a few seating options in case you have to wait. And what's quite unique about the Sphinx class ships is that the areas that I've just showed you are the only public areas on the lower decks. All other public areas are on the upper decks. On most other cruise ships you would have on this deck, deck 5, only public areas and no cabins at all, but here on the Sphinx class ships there are almost no public areas on the lower decks. All cabins are on the lower decks and the public areas are on the upper decks. And that's why we can now skip the decks 6, 7 and 8, because they are only cabins. Here we can take a look at the staircase at deck 8, so you can see that they have also updated this area with a new piece of art. And now we are on deck 9, the first deck, with almost only public areas. There are only cabins in the front. We're now in the middle of the ship, heading to the rear part of the ship, and there we have only public areas. We are now in the heart of the ship, which is the theatrium. Here we have a possibility to book your next excursion and the TV studio. And here you can see the updated furniture of AIDAdiva. The old school, very colorful furniture has been replaced by slightly less colorful, but much more modern furniture, very comfortable chairs. And what's also new in the theatrium, finally there are backrests at the benches of the theatrium. Here we have the Diva bar, which also received new furniture, which is more modern and especially more comfortable. We have everywhere around the theatrium more seating options, because probably you have already seen one or two videos about AIDA, and you know that they don't have a theater, but they have the theatrium, which is a combination of an atrium and a theater, and it has some ups and some downs. Downside is that there are less seats than in a traditional theater, but that's why with this modernization AIDAdiva received additional seating. Here we have tapas and bar, which is a tapas bar, and you can get included tapas, which is very nice. It's at a location of the former sushi bar, which has a new location now. And the tapas bar is included, you just have to pay for drinks unless you have a drinks package. Here we can see the shops. We will take a closer look at them in a second. We have two different shops, but first let's take a look at the art gallery. Here you can see all those pieces of art that you can buy, and there are also some special auctions for these pieces of art. Here we can see the shops again. This shop is mainly for souvenirs and AIDA products with the AIDA logo, and on the left side we have the shop with the more expensive items, for example perfumes and jewelry. Here we have the famous market restaurant, which is a buffet style restaurant, very traditional, available on all AIDA ships. Comes with a very unique design, as the name implies. It is supposed to look like a market. You have different islands where you can get your food, and then we have a big seating area. Of course, you have free seating, and there are mainly tables of 4, 6 or 8. The market restaurant remained more or less the same, just some slight updates and changes, but nothing too dramatic. But that's very different when we come to deck number 10. Here we have the Yacht Club restaurant, which we'll take a look at later on. That used to be the Weite Welt restaurant. It is a complete new restaurant, but we will see it later on in the video. We will heading back to the front. We're going through the Almhütte, which is a Bavarian and Austrian style, Alpine style restaurant. This hasn't been changed at all because it has been added later on, and it is already quite modern, so there are no changes here to this restaurant. It is also included. You don't need to pay extra, but the drinks are not included unless you have a drinks package. Here we can see a picture of the Almhütte, which is also used for parties. For example, traditional Bavarian morning point. And we're now heading on further to the front, and we're getting to the Vinothek, which is a wine tasting bar. Here you can get some more wines. It also has been just changed slightly. Still, most seats are not that comfortable, but we got the high tables with a bit more comfortable bar stools. Also, it is a bit less colorful than before. It looks a bit more modern and a bit more luxurious, and that's also what applies to all public areas of the ship. They all have been changed so that they are less colorful, a bit more modern, and they feel much more luxurious. We're now at the second deck of the theatrium, and here we also have additional seating, and as you can see, the chairs are very comfortable. They don't only look comfortable, but they also are very comfortable, and that's one of the ups of the theatrium. So you can decide if you want to sit down in one of the rows around the stage, and you can see everything, you can hear everything, or you sit down a bit further in the back and you just hear the artists singing, for example. You can still play a game, you can enjoy your drinks, so that's up to you, and that's one of the advantages of the theatrium. Before taking a look at one of the biggest changes, we're now heading to the Café Mare. Café Mare is traditionally a cafe on board where you can get Starbucks coffee, It is not included and has also received new furniture, but otherwise the concept stays the same. But as you can see, it's also looking much more comfortable, much more modern. And behind that we have the Buffalo Steakhouse. This is a specialty restaurant, it's not included. You can either just make a seat reservation and pay at the restaurant, or you can also make a pre-booking of a 3-course fixed menu. The restaurant itself hasn't changed at all, it looks the same like before. So we can now head to one of the biggest changes on board, and that is the French Kiss Bar and Bistro. One point of the AIDA Evolution program is to make the older, smaller ships of AIDA look like the newer and bigger ships. So also a few of the ideas of the bigger ships have now been transferred to the AIDAdiva, and of course Bella and Luna will follow this in next year. And one of those ideas and concepts is the French Kiss. French Kiss is a restaurant and a bar, and the guests of AIDA love this bar and restaurant on the big ships, so that's why they put it here on the small AIDAdiva. As you can see, this whole area has been completely renovated. It looks like a brand new ship. If you just see this part, you wouldn't think that you're on a ship that was built in 2007. You would think you're on a new build from this year. And that's because this whole area has been completely redone. That used to be a casino, but now it is this nice bar and bistro. So you can not only get drinks here, but also some small snacks, which is also included in the cruise fare. It's a very nice and modern bar with a very nice concept. We will take a look at the new location of the casino later on. But now we're heading into the AIDA bar, which is the biggest bar on board. And it used to have very colorful seats that were not that comfortable. Now it is less colorful, but much more comfortable. It still has a lot of color because the bar itself, the iconic star-shaped bar, hasn't been changed and is still very colorful, still with its distinctive and unique design, but the seating areas are now much more comfortable and in a much less colorful look. And now we're getting to, for me personally, the best upgrade and the strongest upgrade of the whole AIDA Evolution program. And that is the panoramic lounge, panorama bar. This used to be an area with quite uncomfortable seats and only a very handful of them, so there was never a seat available. And even if there was a seat available, I didn't want to go there because the seats were so uncomfortable. Now this is the most comfortable part of the whole ship. Those chairs are so comfortable, they are so soft and nice. You can sit here for hours, enjoy a book, have a nice drink and just enjoy the view over the bow of the ship. So for me this is the nicest place on board and the biggest upgrade and the best change of the ship. Of course it is a highly frequented area now because it is so nice and comfortable, so you have to be lucky to get one of the few seats here because it's still just a small bar. But if you get one of those seats, you can consider yourself very lucky because they are just so comfortable and nice. Also new is that there is a bar available here. There used to be a library that was replaced by the bar, and it is a special bar that has a special rum menu, and they offer a lot of very nice and fancy cocktails that you can only get here in this bar. So for me, one of the highlights of the AIDA Evolution program. We're now heading back to the rear part of the ship. We're going through the AIDA bar again. As I said, it's the biggest bar on board. AIDA calls it also the longest bar counter at sea, and it also comes with a stage, so it's also good for entertainment. With the longest bar counter of the seas, of course, they refer to this iconic star-shaped bar counter. And now we're heading to the new location of the casino, which we will find here on the port side of the ship in the former photo gallery. When this ship was built, it was still standard to print out all the pictures that the photographers have taken and place them in this area so the guests can take a look at them and decide if they want to buy them. If they didn't buy them, they had to be thrown away. Of course, nowadays this can be easily done digitally with screens, so there's no need to print all those pictures, and that's why this whole area was not used anymore, even before the modernization program. So now it has become the new home of the casino. The casino became slightly smaller than before, but casinos are not that important on German ships, so that's no problem at all. And this is the new photo gallery, as you can see, much smaller, just a counter and a few screens where you can take a look at the pictures. Of course, there's also some more additional seating for the theatrium. And now we can go up to the next deck. We will continue our ship tour on deck 11. Here on deck 11 we have the timeout bar, also with nice and comfortable seating. As I said, those seats are not only looking nice, but they are also very comfortable, looking much nicer, more luxurious than the old ones. So also this is a big upgrade. We're now heading into the gym, and you might wonder why it's now dark outside again. Of course, I'm taking my ship tour always very early in the morning. I started at 5:30, so I was here around 6 o'clock, and it was already quite crowded, so I couldn't take the video. So that's why I came back very late in the evening when it was less crowded. But here we can see some pictures of the gym, which has a nice and decent size for a small ship like the Diva, and it comes with a lot of nice and modern equipment. There's also an area for courses, which is also very nice, and here we can also see the reception of the gym. In front of that we have the bridge, so that's an area we cannot access, of course. Here on the left side we have a conference room, and there are 4 special cabins which are in a location of a former cinema. Those are 4 outside cabins with floor-to-ceiling windows that cannot be opened, but you have a nice view. But that hasn't been a change of the AIDA Evolution program. They are available also on the sister ships. Here on the left side we have another possibility to book your next cruise or to get some more information about the excursions, so-called Fernweh-Experten. And of course we have some more additional seating. As I said, one of the downs of the theatrium is that there are not enough seats for everybody, and that's why with the AIDA Evolution they try to get as much seats in here as possible. So they replaced those islands that used to be here, that were like beds where you can watch the show on a screen. They have been replaced by additional seating. Also, still there are not enough seats, even though the number of seats has been raised a lot with the modernization, but still a lot of people have to stand during the shows. Some of those guests also decide to stand because they just want to watch for like 5 or 10 minutes, so that's also part of the concept. But now more guests have the chance to get a seat, and if you don't get a seat, at least there are some tables, some high tables where you can place your drinks if you don't get a seat and want to watch the whole show. We're continuing heading to the rear part of the ship, and here we have another new bar, and that is the ice bar. Here you can get some nice ice cream. It also comes with a new seating area where you can enjoy the ice cream. Of course, you can also take it with you, take it outside, because after the ice bar we will head outside for the first time, except for the promenade of course, and take a look at the sun deck of AIDAdiva. The sun deck hasn't been changed very much. It stayed more or less the same. Some parts there was a new floor installed, and the sun lounges and chairs have been replaced by nicer and more modern models. So here we have the sun deck with a big stage and a screen, and also the pools stayed the same. On AIDA ships there are usually no swimming pools. The pools are relaxation pools, pools for kids to play, pools for teens to play, for adults to refresh, but they are not for swimming. But it's also part of the concept of AIDA. We will take a closer look at the outer areas of the ship, of course, but we still have a few indoor areas that we will take a look at. First, we're heading further on to the rear part of the ship, and we're now getting to the beach bar. The beach bar is the bar for smokers on board. Smoking is permitted here. This area is partly covered, and that means in this area you have a very strong smell of cold smoke of cigarettes. So for me this is a bar that I'm never using on the AIDA ships, and I also don't like the location because it's right opposite the entrance of the most expensive and best restaurant on board, and that is the Rossini restaurant. It's a fine dining restaurant, of course it's not included. And also this restaurant has been renovated partly because the front part now serves as a lounge during the day, but it's only for the guests of the suites. If you have booked a suite on board, you can use this bar during the day, and in the morning you can have a breakfast here, and in the evening it becomes a fine dining restaurant available for all guests on board if you make your reservation. This is the first time that on a Sphinx class ship there is an area that is only intended for the guests of the suites. Now we're coming to another restaurant, and that is the Best Pizza at Sea. Here you can get some very good and nice pizza. This restaurant hasn't been changed, it looks the same like it used before modernization, so we can continue to a completely new area on board. This location used to be the Bella Vista restaurant. This restaurant doesn't exist anymore. Now we have here the East Fusion restaurant, where you can get Asian food like sushi, so that's the new location for the sushi restaurant, but it also offers some more dishes. Additionally, there is the Tokyo bar, which is integrated because this seating area here on the right side is also used for the bar, but if the restaurants are open, it's also used for the restaurants. And behind that we have the French Kiss restaurant. We will take a closer look at the French Kiss restaurant later on, and I will tell you a bit more about this restaurant also later on. But here we can see the East Fusion restaurant. Again, it is not included. You should make a reservation and then you can order a la carte and you have to pay at the restaurant. Of course, it will be booked to your onboard account. So now we've seen all areas of deck 11 and we can head up to deck number 12, and here we have the famous time tunnel, which is traditionally the entrance to the Anytime bar. But before heading there, we're turning right, and here we have an arcade room. Here we can play arcade games. This used to be an area for bigger kids and teens, but now it is the arcade room. And for the teens, there is a new location that we'll see in a second. I really like the design of this place, of this area. It looks very modern, even though it's a traditional arcade game room. And now we're heading back into the time tunnel. We're not going into the Anytime bar because it doesn't exist anymore. The Anytime bar has been replaced with the Ocean Club. The Anytime bar used to be a traditional disco. It was intended mainly for dancing. Now it is more like a club where you also have seating areas, so you can decide if you want to go on the dance floor to dance or if you want to sit down and just listen to some louder music and enjoy a few drinks. And this area can now also be used during the day for programs for the teenagers on board. So there are special programs for kids and teens, and the teens can meet here in the Ocean Club now. But as you can see, there is still a big dance floor, so of course it still is also the disco, the club on board. So in the evening you will have some loud music by DJs, you can dance, you can enjoy some nice drinks until very late in the night. Straight behind it we have the Ocean Bar, which is one of the outdoor bars on board. These wooden covers of course will be removed once the bar is open. And here we have the outdoor area. Of course chairs are removed in the night to make sure that they are not falling overboard, for example, if there's a storm in the night, and they will be placed in the morning, but I was earlier than the crew here, so that's why there are no chairs. Of course there will be chairs during the day. So here you have a very nice outdoor area where you can enjoy a nice drink and enjoy the beautiful view. And now, as promised, we're heading back down to deck 11 and deck 10. Here on deck 11, for the first time on an AIDA ship, we have an outdoor area of the French Kiss restaurant. The French Kiss restaurant is a specialty restaurant which is included, so you don't have to pay extra, you just need to make a reservation, and then you have a fixed menu. It's the same every day on the cruise. There are like 5-6 main courses, starters, soups, so you can choose from a fixed menu, which is, as I said, every day the same. So you can decide how many times you want to go there. Just take a look at the menu, decide how many of the dishes are interesting, and then you can book 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, as much as you want. It is included, you just need to pay for the drinks. It is a la carte service included in your cruise fare. Just make sure to get a reservation. It's quite big, so it was a bit easier to get a reservation here than on the AIDAnova, where it was quite hard to get a reservation for the French kiss because the passengers really love it. But here you have a good chance to get a table, but I would still recommend to book as early as possible. Now we're back on deck 10, and here we have also a big change, something new, and that is the Lanai bar. This used to be the outdoor area of the Weite Welt restaurant. Here you could enjoy breakfast, lunch and dinner outside, and you can still do that, but additionally there's now also a bar that is open all day long, so here can you always get some nice drinks and enjoy the view. And also the tent roof is new, so this area is now covered. If there's bad weather, you can still go here, enjoy a drink without getting wet. And now, as promised, we're taking a look at the Yacht Club restaurant. This is completely new. As you can see, it looks almost the same like on AIDAnova. It has been inspired by the design of the Nova, and it is also a buffet style restaurant. The big difference is that here you have mainly tables of 2 and 4, so there's a higher capacity, because sometimes there are only 3 people at a table of 8 in a market restaurant, and then the other 5 seats stay empty. But here you have also tables for 2 and for 4, so it's a different concept. Also nice restaurant with a buffet. The second big main restaurant. We're now back up, and we are now on deck 14, the highest deck on board. Here we have the jogging track. You can jog around the funnel of the ship, and also here there is something new. Here on the left side, now there's a huge playground for the kids for climbing, and there's also a slide. It's not a water slide, there are no water slides on the AIDAdiva, but it is a regular slide and a climbing area for the kids right next to the sports court. The sports court remained the same. Here you can play, for example, basketball, football, completely covered by a net. So this is also a nice area for kids and everybody who wants to do some sports. And it also has been used a lot, especially by the kids during my cruise. Here you also, of course, have another nice view over the sternwave. That's also something I really like about the Sphinx class ships, that you have so many outer areas here at the aft of the ship where you can take a look over the sternwave. We're now heading back to the front, where we can now enjoy a nice view over the pool deck and the pool areas that we have already seen, but we will take a closer look in a second. We're now leaving the jogging track again, but before heading back down to deck 12 we can take another look over the pool deck. You can also see the pools. As I said, no swimming pools, but more like relaxation pools. And now we're heading to the front. I think they were producing a new movie on board about the ship, because there was a professional movie team on board, so we're just walking past them and we're continuing with our small ship tour. And here we can see the pools that I mentioned a few times before. I think you can now see what I mean. They are not suitable for swimming, but they are made for relaxation. Of course, we can also take a look at the pictures of the pools. And now we're heading to the pool bar, which of course is the traditional pool bar here on the pool deck. So if you're laying in the sun, enjoying the great weather, of course you have a nice bar nearby to get some cool and refreshing drinks. As I said, the sand lounges also have been renewed. They are now a bit nicer, a bit more luxurious than before. And here in the background you can already see the pool bar. Of course now it is still closed, so that's why there are the covers in front of it. They will be removed as soon as the bar opens. And behind the pool bar there is also a nice seating area which is partly covered. So if you want to be outside in the fresh air, but it's cold, it's windy, it's rainy, this is a nice area to go, because you still have a fresh air, but it's covered and windproofed. And you also have some quite nice and comfortable seating here. And here we can see it also on the picture. And now it's time to head back inside, because there is one more thing we can take a look at, and that is the body and soul spa area. Of course, as always during my ship tours, I cannot go inside the spa area because it was still closed, and as soon as it opens it's not possible to film in there, so that's why I cannot include it in the ship tour, but at least we can go to the entrance and take a look at how the entrance and the reception area of the body and soul spa area looks like. It is not included, so if you want to go there you need to pay extra, you need to make a reservation. It's not that expensive, and you can decide how long you want to stay and if you want to have it for the whole cruise or just for a couple of hours. If you take a look down here, you can see that even though AIDAdiva is a rather small ship, she's not that small. It's almost quite impressive to take a look down the huge staircase. And here we can see the entrance area of the body and soul spa area. We will take a short look into the spa area later on through a window, and therefore we are now heading up to deck 14. Here we can take another look over the very beautiful pool area of AIDAdiva. And now we're heading further to the front of the ship. We're almost at the end of our ship tour. We have almost seen all public areas. This area up here used to be the nude area, but that's not here anymore. Now it's an area that is exclusively to be used by guests of the suite. It's the exclusive sun deck for the guests of the suites. We're continuing on to the front, and here right of us we have the body and soul spa area. Of course, here we also have some nice sun lounges where you can lay in the sun and enjoy the view over the ocean. And now we can take a little peek look through the window and we can see how the body and soul spa area looks. It's a very beautiful area which comes with a retractable roof, but as I said, it's not included. You need to pay extra for it. And now we're coming to the front. Here you have a nice viewing area, nice viewing deck, which is of course the best place to be if the ship is leaving the port, is going into a port, or if you're sailing through a beautiful fjord in Norway, for example. This is the place to be. I really love that the windows are not that high, so you can actually enjoy the view. You're not behind the window, you can take nice pictures. Of course, that means that it can get quite windy here, but you get a very nice view, as you can see here. Usually my ship tour ends at this place, but there is one new area that I have to show you, and that is the new nude area. So this is the place where you are allowed to be naked. Here you can lay down completely naked if you want to do so. That's quite a typical German thing. I don't like it. And also this area sees a lot of criticism from my side. I don't like that it is not very much separated from the rest of the ship. For example, kids could just easily walk in there without knowing what this area is and see things they don't want to see and they shouldn't see. And I also read a lot of comments from passengers who are actually using this area, and they also don't like that it is not that much separated. There's not that much privacy, and it also feels a bit cramped. But I think AIDA felt the need to still have this area, but they wanted to offer the nice area where it used to be for the guests of the suites. But that's the only downside. All other changes of the AIDA Evolution program are extremely nice, and I really think this is a perfect upgrade for a wonderful ship, and I really liked it. And of course, in the next videos I will also show you my cabin that has also been modernized. I will show you a bit more about the restaurants, the life on board, so make sure to follow and check the next videos. Here you can see when the next video will be uploaded and the name of the song. As always, hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to comment, like, subscribe or share the video link, and I hope to see you in my next video then.